So I just bought a mixer and it's changed, well, everything. Always forget to do that. It's an instrument. It doesn't have to be an instrument. If you want to just use it as a straight up mixer, you could go ahead and do that. Although if you're looking for something that's like strictly a mixer, I wouldn't recommend this. This is definitely geared more towards performance. I would recommend something a little bit more standard, so maybe something from Pioneer, which also veers more towards the performance DJ side of things. If you're looking for a straight up mixer, the Tascam Model 12 is something that people keep mentioning. So many choices. I digress. So like I said, this mixer in particular, if you want it to be an instrument, it's got you. In this first impression video, we'll be getting into why I chose the Model 1.4 specifically for my background and my setup. We'll be looking into its features. It's definitely not overly complicated, but you could tell that there's a lot of love put into this instrument. Every single little inch, centimeter, millimeter, everything is so calculated. Pun intended, I think that the unit does achieve its goal of pushing people to play differently. It's also encouraged me to get back into my DAW and think of it more as an instrument as well, just because of the way that I'm able to route directly into the Model 1.4, which is where I would say most producers are most comfortable composing. We'll be getting into all of this. If you'd like to jump to something specific, there are timestamps or chapters linked in the description. This video is sponsored by DistroKid. Use them if you're looking to distribute your own music officially. They are specifically made for independent artists and producers like us, so more on them later in the video as well. So why the Model 1.4? In terms of audio quality, doesn't really go up from here. Fully analog, every single part of the unit is analog. So if you're using any sort of hardware within your setup, you're gonna have to go in through RCA with this cable. There are 4 stereo inputs, so 4 channels. If you're looking to use some sort of computer software, I've been going out of my sessions in Logic. It's the DAW I use to compose right now. That being said, for any sort of live performance thing, Logic is completely obsolete to Ableton, so that's where Ableton wins.
Dawless. Go.
But in any case, like other DJ mixers, you're not able to plug in via USB. Like I said, it's fully analog. You might want to consider a mixer that you could just go via USB straight into your software. Another attraction was the compactness of the unit. I can include it in a setup, potentially fit it into a backpack along with some other gear, scooter around town from one gig to the next. Speaking of bags and cases for your gear, shout out to Analog Cases. Whereas with the big brother of the 1.4, the Model 1, that's not really realistic. It's got 2 more channels, but it's quite a bit bigger, so I wouldn't be able to fit it into a backpack. Also, the price difference between the Model 1 and the 1.4, I'm totally happy with this compact setup. 4 channels is all I need for now. And while it is compact, it's fluid, it's functional, it doesn't feel cramped, like I have enough space for all of my controls here. In terms of design, ergonomics, and even aesthetic, this thing really is top notch. And if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you know that I'm a huge fan of strong aesthetic. It makes a difference. Makes you feel more like a pro. There are no effects built into the unit, but there are 2 effects sends per channel, so you can mix this on an individual track basis. So as you can imagine, someone coming from more of a hardware background, aka someone who has a ton of effects pedals, someone like myself, this is a really attractive idea. So in this particular example, it's very electron, digitact, digitone. So the digitact is just playing the drums. It's going into channel 1. Here's what the drums sound like. So I have control over volume there. And then the digitone is on channel 2 playing the synth part. Got low pass and high pass on a per track basis. There's also a little sculpt section here. So let's say just the drums. If I want to push something, let's say I want some more kick. Or I could sweep, maybe find a frequency that I like and just push a bit of that. Same thing with the digitone. Just sweeping, finding a frequency. So this is obviously particularly useful for DJs who are maybe chopping and throwing a bunch of samples together. You're able to EQ that on the fly, so obviously very useful for that. It also serves the exact same function within a hardware setup like this. It's particularly difficult to make this mixer sound bad, obviously depending what you're going into. Currently I'm going into the Zoom H1N, so it might not be able to support the power of the 1.4. So let's hit play. I'm gonna turn up the volume of the, so even though we're not maxed out here, it's giving me a hard time, but I'm maxed out on both of these channels. I want as much of this quality as possible because it just drives so nicely, it's so buttery. And then there's the master filter section right here, which I've sort of been filling with a little bit. High pass with lots of resonance. I have control over that resonance right here. So here's without. I like to max that out. The low pass doesn't have the filter, so I thought that was a little bit disappointing. We have another EQ section over here, which I've been fiddling with as well. And of course we have to get to this section up here, so routing your own personal effects into individual tracks. But before we get into that, let's talk about today's sponsor, DistroKid. If you are an independent artist or producer, go with DistroKid, they are your best choice. There is a discount linked in the description, which I encourage you to use. The starting point is $20 a year to release unlimited music to all major streaming platforms, less than a few cups of coffee. And the thing that makes it amazing for independent artists specifically is the sheer amount of free promotional tools that they have to offer. And we're going to rapid fire through a few of them. The standout for me is Hyperfollow, which is essentially a free link and bio link. I use it across all of my social media. You could claim as many pages as you'd like for free. I use them for single releases as well. Promo cards is another big one. Just choose a single and DistroKid will auto-generate these free promotional cards for you to use across social media. DistroVid is another one that they recently added. This one is not free, but it allows you to upload videos for your singles to appropriate platforms. Upon joining, you get free access to Spotify for Artists as well, where you can see all of your stats. There's also a bank where DistroKid delivers you 100% of your earnings from your streams. So many other features, not enough time. The starting price, again, is $20 a year. Can't beat that. If this is something you're interested in, make sure to check out the discount link in the description of this video. Back to it. And now I introduce to you setup number 2. Going back to what I mentioned earlier in this video about the Model 1.4, taking me back into my DAW and actually thinking of it more as an instrument. So this is that workflow. Within Logic, I have some track stacks, which are essentially groups. I got drums, tape loop, keys, and bass, which are routed to these channels here. So this is drums, tape loop, weird synth melody thing, and then I got bass. And then about external effects routing. So here I have the microcosm. For those of you who are not familiar, this is a granular effects pedal. It's very cool. I've mentioned it in a couple videos on my channel. Here's one of them. The mix knob on the microcosm is full blast. Let's hear it on just the synth part, or tape loop, I should say. Kind of cool with drums. Actually, I'm gonna come in with a low pass. lot. Take a bit of that off. Maybe add it to the melody as well. I'm a new Ableton Live user, and in terms of access to effects, it's pretty much unlimited. It's not quite the same as using a high quality effects pedal like the Microcosm. There's just a certain quality to the Model 1.4. It really does push you or encourage you to play differently. I know it sounds really cheesy, but it really does. We're of course not limited to one effects either. I could of course route a second effects here as well. I could add as many effects pedals or whatever to this chain as well. I have an SP404 Mark II, which I always rave about those effects. That's something that I could definitely route to these channels and probably will in a future video. There's another layer to these returns as well, and that's return 1-2 to master filter. So I'm gonna blast it on this, on the tape loop. Hit that. So that effects is being filtered. Same with high pass as well. If I turn it off, that effects continues on. This could be a really cool idea for transitions. Let's say if you have like a long reverb or something like that going on, you can trail off into the next track with that reverb. Another clever thing is that you're able to jump in and out of each section with a click of a button. So I'm gonna play this track again. Right. Same with this. So you can jump to certain textures with that. I feel like this was a great purchase. Like I just feel really good using it. By the way, I purchased this with my own money. I'm not like sponsored by PlayDifferently in any way. Please sponsor me. It's just completely reshaped all of my setups. This is now like the center. It's kind of like the brain of the operation, even though that's the brain in this case. It really does push me to play differently. If you guys happen to have any comments or questions, suggestions about this mixer, other mixers, whatever you want, let all of us know in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. I'll be getting back to you. I'm an affiliate with Perfect Circuit. They unfortunately do not sell the Model 1.4, but any of the other gear that's mentioned in this video, they do sell. So check that in the description as well. If you end up using those links, I make a small commission from that sale. Doesn't cost you anything extra. As always, thank you guys so much for being here. I was really excited about this one, and hopefully I excited some of you as well. Hope to see you soon.